Okay, first of all, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today on this webinar for preparing for tertiary education here in the US. Before we begin, I just want to lay down a few house rules. Participants should please use the chat box to post contributions, comments, or questions as the discussion goes on. We will be monitoring those comments and those discussions. Please note that everyone will be muted on this call besides the panelists. If you want to make a comment or make a suggestion, just use the raise hand button and you'll be called on at the appropriate time. This webinar is being recorded, as you guys can see, and it will be shared on other platforms like YouTube, maybe Facebook. So just to let everyone know that this is being recorded. So some people will ask, why are we doing this webinar? The fact is that very often people ask me and some of the panelists on this webinar about coming to school here in the United States. This is no surprise because according to the 2019 Open Doors reports on international education, the number of Ghanaians that travel to the US for tertiary education keeps increasing. Ghana is now actually the second sub-Saharan African country that has the highest number of international students here in the United States. So as we, as a group of friends, talk amongst ourselves, we realize that there's a gap when it comes to the information about processing, selecting, applying, and getting admitted into schools here in the United States. This gap sometimes leads to delays in the process, or sometimes denial of admission, funding, or even visas. Because of this, we decided as a group to have this webinar to provide general information and guidance on how to successfully navigate the entire process of coming to the US as an international student. So at this point, I would like to call on our panelists to introduce themselves. We have with us Valerie. You're on mute.
Hi, my name is Valerie Zule. I currently work at the Embassy of Ghana. I'm a staff at the Embassy of Ghana. My background is I did my associate degree in pre-law at the Iowa Central Community College. I went on further to obtain my undergraduate at the University of Minnesota in international relations and a minor in French and political science. My graduate education was at the University of Baltimore in global affairs and human security.
We also have Afia Jekun with us. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, welcome to the webinar. My name is Afia Jekun and I did my undergraduate studies at the University of Ghana, focused in agricultural science with specialization in agroeconomics. And then in 2016, I came to the US to study agribusiness and food industry management as a master's program with North Carolina Agricultural and Technical University. Currently, I'm employed with ADRA International, which is a humanitarian and development arm that works on poverty, food security, and my position is the Agriculture and Livelihoods Advisor. Thank you.
Thank you, Ifya. We also have with us Nana Sechiwa. Can you introduce yourself?
Hello to you all. My name is Nana Sechiwa Brownwood. I currently work with Niatero. Niatero is an organization that works alongside indigenous people and local communities, securing their vital ecosystem and territories. My undergraduate education was from the University of Ghana. I have a BSc in Animal Biology and Conservation Science from the university. And I came in 2016 to study a master's program in environmental conservation at the University of Wisconsin-Madison.
Thank you. We also have with us Edna. Edna, can you introduce yourself? You're on mute.
Hi, everyone. My name is Edna Mensah. I'm currently a research analyst at the IMF, International Monetary Fund. I'm pretty much sure some of you are familiar with the company. We work with, we have like over almost 190 countries that we help with financial aid and technical advice and stuff like that. I'm not going to go into what we do pretty much, but I would like to share with you my background. So I also completed University of Ghana in 2012. Did my national service, and then moved to the US to study a Master of Science in Applied Economics at the Illinois State University. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Edna. We have with us also Isaac Amwa. Isaac, can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Isaac Osei Amwa. I had my undergraduate degree in economics and statistics from the University of Ghana. It was a combined major. Then I came to the US, to the George Washington University, had my master's in applied economics, and I'm currently working with the Children's National as a procure-to-pay analyst.
Thank you, Isaac. We also have with us Alfred, who you might not have seen on the flyer, but he is also a panelist with the group. Go ahead, Alfred, introduce yourself.
Thank you. So my name is Alfred Kuji. I also had my undergraduate degree in University of Ghana. I did biochemistry for my undergrad, and I'm currently a PhD student at the Biological Science Department in Virginia Tech. I'm studying microbiology now.
Okay, thank you, Alfred. And I am also Nat Kofi Abubonsra. I had my undergrad education at Valley View University. I did development studies there, and then came to the United States to do global affairs and human security at the University of Baltimore. So I currently also work with ADRA International, like Ifya, which is a development and humanitarian agency of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. We also have several others who have joined us on this webinar that are currently international students or have gone through the same process before and will be also contributing as we go on. I want all the participants to take note that all the opinions of myself and all the panelists here are that of their own and does not represent their employers. We as a group are not part of any consultancy agency that recruits international students to the US. So this is just a community service that we are doing to help people that have interest in coming to the United States to further their education. So I'm gonna first start off by asking Isaac. So Isaac, you said you went to the University of Ghana, you did apply, you did economics in school. What motivated you to say that you want to pursue higher education in the United States?
Okay, so thank you. And actually, the reason why I wanted the United States was because of how we recognize their certificates. I mean, if you school in the United States, it's your certificate is actually going to take you far. So it was a place that I wanted to be. And to be fair, honestly, I actually wasn't ready to learn another language, like go to China, like that's just by the way, but that's something that I didn't want to. So I actually wanted to come to the US for my master's, and I wanted to do applied economics. After reading about the program, I realized it's just a combination of economics and statistics. It it prepares you with more of the statistical tools whilst you combine it with the economics. So to me, I thought that was also a program that will benefit me, prepare me for the job market, and give me like more of the robust skills to be able to fit in the job market. I want to actually really go further in economics, and there are a lot of um, people who have had impact in the world of economics who are from the United States. So it's the level of education, the how the degree is recognized worldwide, and how their schools are also international friendly. So that were some of the reasons why I wanted to pursue my master's in economics in the US specifically.
Okay, so you were actually building on what you did in your undergrad when you came here. I want to ask Edna, what was some of the contributing factors that made you decide on the school that you went to? And also, just like Isaac, could you touch on briefly on what motivated you to select the US as a place to come to school?
Okay, am I on mute? Okay. Now, thanks for the question. So for as far as school selection, now there are different ways to go about it. I, for one, applied to just 2 schools. One of it was purely referral. I knew someone in the school, so that's how come I ended up also applying to that school. And then there was a second one that I had Google searched, and it was purely because I had read that that school gave quite a bit of funding to international students. So that was also why I had applied to that second school. As far as motivation-wise, economics at the undergrad level gives you the foundation, right, into into economics in general, but it doesn't prepare you to be very competitive when it comes to finding a job in economics. So I wanted to do the master's program to kind of like equip me with the tools, because at the master's level, you do more. You run regressions, you have to learn about all these softwares that even in University of Ghana, we didn't have access to.
Right.
So that was part of my motivation to study like a master's program, to be able to be well equipped and prepare for a job in economics. And also the US, because who doesn't like US? I mean, they give very good funding, and also overall, like their certificates, like Isaac said, is one of the most recognized globally.
Thank you very much. So like you and Isaac, your track is kind of similar. You were both doing undergraduate at the University of Ghana, and then decided to pursue higher education here in the United States, did your due diligence, and then applied to schools. I know Valerie that is with us took a different track. Valerie, could you share with us your process of what motivated you to pursue higher education here in the United States, and how you decided to select the school? Because you did undergrad, whilst Isaac and Edna came here for graduate school.
Yes, thank you, Nat. So I initially came here for an exchange program. So back in the day in high schools, there were several exchange programs going around. There was AFS that was pretty popular in most of the high schools, but I came with a program called YFU, Youth for Understanding. Now it's a 1-year program where you integrate into the American system. Like you go through high school, and during my time here, I was in the final year of high school, although I left in the second year of secondary school in Ghana. I came and joined the third year, the final year, which is your senior year of high school in the United States. So after having gone through that process, was done. We went through taking the SATs. You did everything like a senior would do, preparing yourself for college. It was time to go back home, and my options were to return to my secondary school in Ghana to do the fourth year, because without the 4 years, you couldn't move on to tertiary education in Ghana. But having been here, I spoke to a couple of my counselors, and they were like, you could try to return here. But the problem was, at the time, was the funding for schools. It was quite pricey. A lot of people were moving on to Purdue University, Butler, and the fees were outrageous. So
exorbitant, yeah.
yes, so I was in the process of speaking to them. They opened my eyes to community colleges, which I looked into.
Right.
And so after taking my SATs, I started looking aggressively to some of the community colleges around, found out it was cheaper as compared to most of the 4-year universities. So I took that route. I applied, got a couple of acceptance, then I finally narrowed it down to the most affordable, and I moved on to returning after my exchange year to pursue higher education. And I would say a lot of people think, oh, come and you do a 4-year college. Because I would advise anyone who is looking into coming here for tertiary education, or to be specific, your bachelor's education, to look into community colleges. Right. Although it's 2 years, you eventually move on to a 4-year college, but it's a way of saving cost, because as compared to the 4-year universities, the prices are pretty manageable. So
right.
Yes, that's what informed my decision to move here. That me not wanting to go back and do a 4th year of high school in Ghana before going to secondary school, when I've done a complete year of secondary school here, I was like, why not just return to do this?
Exactly. I, for example, also have experience with going to community college before I went to Ghana. And that is also another route. For people that have not heard this, you should also look into community colleges. They're spread across the United States, and just search community colleges in the United States just to see what will come up. Moving forward, as we continue this discussion about what motivated people and how they decided what they wanted to study, I want you to share your experience in terms of how you also identified your school and narrowed down what program you wanted to do. What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, thank you very much. So identifying my school and my program, I would say the school and the program for me came as one package. But before then, I had been looking forward for a program to study. Like I mentioned, I studied animal biology and conservation science from the University of Ghana. The equivalent in other universities are zoology and natural resource, or yeah, those are the closest equivalent I could give out. So I was already asking questions, talking to my professors, trying to figure out what I would do in future with this program, and also asking past students of the department what they were doing. I realized a lot of people were changing path because there were no job opportunities and what have you. But I really did enjoy that program. So conservation is something that I thought came naturally to me. I really did enjoy that program and I wanted to pursue it. But there was also a gap for me in the society I grew up in, knowing if I tell people that I study animal biology and conservation science, then they are like, what is that? What are you going to do with it? And then you try to convince people on the need to conserve the environment, protect all that. So I realized that there was a need for me to understand social sciences. How are people reacting to this and how are they thinking about the environment? What can I do? So that was my interest. So that came up that, okay, how can I make my program, my background much more beneficial for my career development?
Right.
And it started leading me to searching for interdisciplinary courses in biological sciences and environmental sciences, specifically in conservation. And fortunately for me, speaking with my professor about it, he also mentioned that there are good places to get connected and know what to do or what the future in conservation looks like is to attend conferences.
Okay.
So there was a conference that was going on with the Society of Conservation Biology, and it was going to be held in France. So that was where I had the information about the conference from. And he encouraged me to apply for it and attend the conference. So it was at the conference I met my school representatives,
Okay.
who had the exact program I was looking for, which was a program that offered interdisciplinary studies in conservation and environmental sciences, and also with social sciences. So that's how I found my school and my course. And coming back to Ghana, I started doing research about their program outline, what it entails, to really identify if this was really what I needed to pursue. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I know that we've discussed how, you know, Edna and Isaac came here to pursue graduate school. Valerie, you came here undergrad, but we have Alfred with us too, who is still in school. And Alfred came here in a different route. You actually came here straight into a PhD program. Can you share with us how that path looked like and how you landed a PhD program here? And if you could share the program you're doing too.
Thank you for the question. So typically for the sciences, you don't do a
Go ahead.
PhD program. You are fully funded in order to be able to do the PhD. So knowing that after I did my undergrad, a couple of seminars I attended piqued my interest in what I'm currently doing. Which is studying plant biology and how microbes are able to help plants to grow better. So what I did was to look at the societies that plant biologists are affiliated to. And for example, if you go to the American Plant Biological Society or American Microbiological Society, you can easily find the schools that are affiliated to them and the departments as well. And on those websites, I found the researchers that were doing the kind of work I was interested in, and I emailed those professors, and then a ton of them might not reply. Some might give you, "Oh, you wait, I don't have funding now," and then a few of them might tell you, "Yeah, I have funding," and then encourage you to apply to their school. So that's what I did, and I applied to about 6 schools, and then got three of them, and then I'm currently at Virginia Tech now.
Thank you so much. Ifia, I know with all that they're saying, there were some requirements. If you could shed some light on the processes you had to go through in terms of fulfilling the requirements for the school. And if you would like to touch on how you landed your school, if possible.
Thank you, Nat. For me, I'll just start with the last part and I'll be very brief. Most of the areas have been covered by my other panelists. So I had just a slightly different path. I got the opportunity through school, that is my undergraduate study through University of Ghana, through a professor who knew someone else who was a professor here in the US, looking for a graduate student to help them with the research area and support as a research assistant. So that was the opportunity that came to me because of the kind of professional relationship I had with the faculty. And I took advantage of it because it was in my area of study and was giving me an opportunity to move higher in my educational path. So briefly, that was it. In terms of requirements, and I'll be a bit more general on what applies to most graduate school applications. The very first thing is the graduate school application process. And usually a lot of schools have an online platform. You go to the graduate school website, you'll be able to find, usually they say apply online. Applications are online. You would be able to create a portal And in the portal, you select the program of interest, and it would give you all the things that you need to complete before you submit your application. When you go to the graduate school website, you would also be able to read about all the requirements. Some of the requirements will be very specific to your program of study. That means your department or college in particular. And it's critical to also note that graduate school requirements might, for some things, be different from your department requirements. So a graduate school could say that you're supposed to have a minimum GPA of 2.5 to qualify for a graduate studies wisdom. But your department could say the minimum required GPA is 3.0. So I would encourage you, I'm sure by the time you get to the point of starting the application process, you are clear in your mind what program you want to pursue. Go to your department's website, look at the requirements they have, look at the course structure, some of the subjects that they are teaching, possibly look at the faculty and identify their research areas and areas of interest. This is critical because it helps you to align your application process to the actual needs of the department. Aside completing the application online, you would also be required to submit a transcript. If your transcript is in English, for most schools, as I know, you are okay to go with that. If it's in any other language, sometimes you'll be required to translate the transcript so that you have the US equivalent grades, your grades translated into the US equivalent grades. So you have to note that if your transcript is not in English. You can submit a PDF version of your transcript, but mostly when you are admitted, you would have to submit a hard copy as well. You'll be required to submit a CV or resume. I would encourage you to really tailor this to, if it's not a lot, or if it's too much and you need to narrow down, focus on what highlights your strength as pertains to the graduate program of interest, the department interest, and the graduate school in general. The other thing that is required sometimes is the personal statement. It's actually asking you to write why you are interested in the program, what you seek to do with the program, and how you'll be beneficial to the department. There's always some brief summary of what you are looking for in the personal statement. Please refer to that and let that guide you. You can also go online and get some templates to guide how to write the personal statement, or seek help, get someone to provide some intel to make you write a strong personal statement. Some schools also go beyond these three to even ask for things like a diversity essay. If it's a PhD application, they can ask you for a written academic work, like a published paper or something like that. So you have to note all of those details. There is also the test course, GRE, that you might be asked to submit. I will leave that for Edna to touch more on those things. And the last part that I'll talk on is there's an application fee. For each school that you apply to for graduate school, you'll be required to pay an application fee. Some schools offer options to waive the application fee. So I would suggest that you read and be clear if there's an option for that. Some of the ways to know some of these things is also to get in touch with the graduate school coordinator for your department or your department chair. When you get in touch with them, they can actually, you can contact them via email. Always their information are on the department's website. Let them know you are thinking of applying. This is an area of interest to you. You wanted to know if you can get a waiver, or if they offer a waiver, or you saw at the graduate school website that they can get you a waiver for the application process. How do you go about it? The graduate school coordinator is a great resource when you are thinking of applying to the graduate school, and in terms of being able to meet the requirements and apply correctly. I will leave it at here for now. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Afia. I know Martin keeps raising his hand that he has a question, but if Martin, you can hold off till we're done, we'll give you a chance to ask your question. Moving forward, I want to throw this question to the panelists. Could any of you just share with us one of the challenges you faced during this process of narrowing down school, selecting school, and applying for schools? What was one challenge that faced you, and how were you able to overcome it? I'll throw that question at Valerie. As you were applying for an undergrad degree here in the United States, what was one of the challenges that you faced, and how did you overcome that?
Okay, so my biggest challenge was transitioning from a community college to a four-year university. So what I was advised initially was to focus on getting my core out of the way, not focus on actually obtaining an associate degree, which I didn't listen to because I was so excited about getting a first degree anyways.
Right.
But after getting that associate degree, what I failed to focus on was what was my next step. My thing was, oh, you have an associate degree, it should be easy for you to transition to your next step. But
Right.
the challenge was the fact that I was in Iowa at the time and I didn't necessarily want to stay in that state. I wanted to move out. Now, having had all those credits from Iowa Central, moving to a different state, some of the state requirements as what they deem standard for your general education didn't necessarily match the same as Iowa did. So
Right.
me trying to move from Iowa to a different state altogether, some of the credits I had obtained didn't really, I'll give you an example. I was advised, oh, do math for liberal arts. It's a way to get out from math altogether. I took that class and transitioning to a four-year college, I had to take an additional math class to step up that because it's a different state. The requirement was, it wasn't up to standard for them. So yeah, that was one of the big challenges, trying to apply to a next school, make sure that all my credits had transferred right, and I didn't have to take any additional. So I actually ended up taking some other classes to balance off what I had taken from a different state. So yeah, so what I would say is, if you use the route of coming in with an associate degree,
Right.
bear in mind, once you get into the program, as you start, try contacting other schools, figure out what they require of you. Don't necessarily focus on getting the associate degree bit of it, more of I'm in here to get my gen eds to cut costs so that once I transfer, I have all this list of general eds that I need to look into. I have it done. When I come, I go straight into my electives. So yeah,
Right.
that was one of the challenges I had. And like I said, if you want to use that route coming in with an associate degree, just be mindful of the fact that it doesn't necessarily transfer as easy as you think it would, although it's a good option because of cost, like I said. Yes.
Oh, thank you very much, Valerie. Isaac, could you briefly touch on what type of challenges you also faced whilst deciding to come to school here?
Oh, okay. So I think one of the challenges, like coming from Ghana, is getting a recommendation from your professors. I will advise you have to start early because I had to go to my professors over and over and over. And I mean, I understand them because they don't know me. There were some of them for the past, like for the all 4 years in University of Ghana, I'd never spoken to them before. So
Right.
it's really hard for them to write something about you. And so if you have not already completed school, you can try to, let's say, do a like try to get closer to them,
Right.
pass by, say hi and all that. I know they will be, but if they know you, if they know you, especially if you didn't do any research or something with them, then if they don't know you, they only give a recommendation about your, okay, this guy had an A and all that, but a recommendation should go beyond that. Aside the recommendation, your statement of purpose, that's also another thing that, as our sister said, you have to contact people who have already been through that or who have had their graduate education already so that they look through. I mean, it's really hard to write it. You wouldn't know the structure and all that. I mean, it was hard for me writing it. also I didn't have any school in mind, like no one recommended. The person I knew here, she said it's good you look for the schools yourself, because when you go for the interview and they ask you why you want that school, and you've read a lot about them, so you can really answer and flow.
Speak to it.
So I just Googled schools and then picked, because like my school was in Washington, DC, the location is good, it was closer to the IMF and all that. So it was a challenge, like knowing this the school, because no one recommended. You don't even know how the school is and all that. So try starting early. If you want to come in August, from the beginning of the year you are putting your stuff together, because it's really back and forth, especially recommendation. I won't lie to you, like
Yeah.
I was lucky because I did my national service in the statistics department, so I got the professors to do it for me. But I had to get from economics. Oh God, it was like go and come, go and come. So try early, so that the more you go there, and I mean, at least they know your face and they are going to do it for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Isaac. And that's a very great point. Don't just go on campus and just be a ghost there. Try to be known by your professors. Be involved in, student leadership to get your name out there, because when it comes to recommendation letters, professors are putting their name out there. And most of the time they like to know the people that they're dealing with. I would like to switch to the next topic. Christopher has his hand up. If you could just hold off till the panelists are done, I'll call on you so that you ask your question or give your contribution. The next topic is costs, which is the favorite topic for most of our panelists. And so I would like to ask Nana Sichiwa to tell us about her experience when it came to cost and funding, and then come in here. What was your experience? How much did it cost for you to go to school? And how did you pay for school?
So whilst you're doing your search for your schools, it's also a good idea to be looking at how much it will cost you. So for me, I started doing that from the very beginning, and my school would cost like $40,000 a year. And so in my communication with my school, I sent emails back and forth to try and establish a relationship with them even before applying. And I got to know that they were going to offer scholarships to people, irrespective of if they apply for scholarships or not. So applying for the program automatically gets you considered for scholarship. However, it's not going to be a full scholarship. It's going to be some amount of money, maybe half of it or less. So I already knew that maybe half of my 40,000
could be paid.
Knowing the kind of qualifications I was having I was confident that I would get a good, reasonable amount of money, but I was hoping for more. When I gained the admission and I also gained the scholarship notification, it was for about $20,000. So I had to raise the remaining $20,000. Prior to that, like I said, I already knew that the tuition would cost like $40,000. So I started working alongside trying to find extra funding. That is usually difficult to attain when you do not have anything to show to other people that, oh, I've been able to secure this, so leveraging. So I've been able to secure this, and I was hoping you could also help me come up with it. It's really difficult to attain, but there are places you could look at. OPEC offers funding for people. And I also started doing my search from Ghana. I started doing internally from what I could get from my own country, then what I could get on the international platform. Within Ghana, I went to the Scholarship Secretariat and some other places that I thought I could find funding for. Unfortunately, at the Scholarship Secretariat, I learned that some of the funding available were tied down to specific programs and specific countries. The US was not part of it. It was more Russia, Ukraine, Cuba, and more so for people who wanted to study medicine. So that was a dead end for me. I tried the Petroleum Agency too. That was also a dead end because the lists that will come out and getting onto the list, I saw that my chances were pretty low. and my timing for school. So another thing is knowing when your school have to start. So you have to get funded by the time school will start or even go for your interview. So my timing for school was also not enough, but I also looked for scholarship with other online platforms. Finally, I got my scholarship from a private organization.
Okay.
From someone, a private person whose company were doing goodwill and social. Most organizations have social services and community services to the country because they are making money also in there. So that was what I capitalized on, the funding from that organization.
Okay.
And this was just a private company. I wish I could put it out there, but it's more of like a case to case and whether that year they're even giving funding for schools or they're giving funding to maybe a children's home or something. So that was where I got my funding from a private organization to supplement my coming to school here. I didn't get funding like graduate assistantship, research assistantship, CA, and those other forms of funding that you find on most graduates' websites. That was because, like I mentioned, my education was already coming with the funding attached to it. And then, which was like a fellowship. So you didn't have to render any form of service to, well, the service you're rendering is learning and passing, but not any form of like fiscal service of going to certain places to be able to gain additional money.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rhoda. So that onus laid on you for you to seek funding that is, private funding from organizations in Ghana and even other institutions in Ghana, which is an option. I hope the panelists here in the group could put in the chat box some of the institutions that people can go and sort out funding from. That would be very helpful. Alfred, I want to engage you because you came here and you're being paid to go to school. Can you tell people how they can be like you when they grow up?
Thanks for your question. So usually, as I said earlier, for PhDs, you are secured of funding because you either get a graduate assistantship or you get a teaching assistantship. So
Okay.
the departments make that provision that they do not want you to be kind of stranded teaching and then now doing a side job because you're an international student.
Mm-hmm.
So your work that you do in the lab accounts for what you earn as a salary. And whatever you are doing in the lab is also what you are supposed to do for your degree, or it's in pursuance of your degree. So with that said, you don't need any other means of searching for funding. Once you get the school or you're admitted into the school, the funding comes along with it.
Okay. Thank you so much, Alfred. I'm taking note of the time. And so just to push it forward and allow the participants to also engage us and ask us questions, I would like to throw the question to Edna and also Efia to tell us that aside from these ways of getting funding, the school and other stuff, what were some of the ways you guys personally used to fund yourself for upkeep and also going through school? Edna, if you can take that question. You're muted.
Thank you, Nat. So I would begin with the two schools that I mentioned I had applied to. The first school gave me some amount of funding for like 50% of the total money that I would have had to spend the first year. So that was like around $15,000. Now I couldn't come up with the remaining amount. So I had a deadline to kind of like notify them whether I was coming or not. I gave up on that school. The second school did not give me funding at all to start with. And the entry for me was fall, which is like, I guess, September. So told them, I notified the graduate admissions board that I was still interested in the school, and I scheduled my school for the next semester, which was spring in January.
Okay.
Now, between that time period, what I did was I did two things. I tried exploring funding opportunities in Ghana. So there is a GET Fund, there is a GMPC Oil and Gas Learning Foundation, there is a scholarship secretariat. Now, I know these places are all very competitive and hard to get, but trust me, it's worth exploring. Yeah, it's worth exploring. And what you have to do is you have to be very persistent. So that's what I did. I was very persistent. I was praying. I was doing everything. And on the other side of the school, exploring from the school side, I kept emailing my programs director. I made him aware that I really wanted to come to this school, but I didn't have the money. I didn't have the means. So it was just kind of back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, until he finally confirmed a partial funding, which was half graduate assistantship for me. In that case,
Edna,
it meant...
Not to cut you short, tell us how much this amount was.
Okay, yeah, sure. So my fees for one academic year was $35,000. So the partial funding was going to pay $17,000 out of that to cover tuition. Now there is a general fees, there is tuition, personal expenses, rents, and other
insurance
expenses, insurance, health insurance. So my graduate assistantship was going to cover the $17,000 in tuition. Now, general fees was going to be between $1,000 and $2,000, which I had to come up with. And then insurance was also paid for me because I was a graduate assistantship. Now, on top of that, I was supposed to teach for 10 hours a week, which would pay me $15 an hour.
Okay.
So at the end of the month, I was looking at something around $400, but that wasn't enough to cover my rent and also pay for the general fees. Luckily for me, the scholarship I was exploring in Ghana also worked out for me. So they paid a difference, which was the general fees of about $1,000 to $2,000 in a semester. And they also gave me an allowance of $1,000 every month to subsidize. Now, on top of that, you can explore other means. There are on-campus jobs. So I secured a job at a dining center. I was working extra hours, like 10 hours, in addition on top of my graduate assistantship. As you know, international students can't work off campus during the semester. And you can work only 20 hours. So I combined the graduate assistantship, which was 10 hours, and then the dining center job, 10 hours, to be able to make additional money just in case, so that I'm not caught in any tight situation. So these are areas you can explore as far as funding. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Ifya, what was your experience like with your funding? And if you could just go straight ahead and be specific, what was a challenge you faced with funding and how did you overcome that challenge?
Very briefly, I would say read the fine notes. I got a graduate research assistantship funding that was catering for part of my fees and my tuition and fees. And in the letter, it was written in there that it's for one academic year, 2013 to the 2014 academic year. And at that time, the visa application process required that you show funding for one academic year, the first academic year. So I was good to go, but I didn't read the fine print entirely. So it was actually stating that I was going to have it for just 1 year. It was not going to roll over the second year, which was what I had assumed, that once I was getting this in the second year, the same thing would happen. Now I got in, I started school, and after the first year, beginning of the second year, I was waiting for graduate school to give me my tuition remission and also have my graduate research assistantship to go with it. And it was not coming. So I followed up, and then I was told, oh no, you only get tuition remission once from graduate school. If I had read this earlier, when I got my funding notice, I could have made some arrangements for how to fund the second year, and I would have had time to do that. I finally managed to get funding to go through school, but as a learning process, I would say for someone applying for school, read the fine print clearly, make sure you understand what offer you're getting, what amount you're getting, and for what duration.
So how did you overcome that challenge after you found out you were not funded for the next year?
The good thing is that there are opportunities. You have to be aggressive. Okay. And be persistent. So I talked to graduate school, I talked to the dean of my department. I booked an appointment to meet with the dean. I went prepared. I went with my transcripts and CV. And when I finally got the opportunity to meet him, I showed him my credentials and asked for support because of the situation I found myself. And eventually something did work out. He was able to assist me to get some tuition waivers from graduate school because of my academic performance. So be aggressive, talk to people, talk to your department chair, talk to the dean of your college, talk to graduate school. There are different levels of scholarship. Talk to professors who have projects that require students to work with them. I would actually say if you can, come early. When you come early, you can talk to different people. You'll be able to know what opportunities exist in the school that can help you as an international student. And of course, the International Students Office is also a great place for resource. So be connected, get their emails, write to them. Just say, hello, my name is this, I'm interested in pursuing this program. These are my credentials, this is why I'm interested, this is the need I have. And most likely you get a response. The professors do take time, some might not, but hey, you just keep pushing.
Thank you so much, Afia. I think that at this point, I would like to allow our participants to also jump in. I know Martin had his hand up first. So if Martin is still online, could you go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question? If Martin is not here and Christopher, you're ready to go ahead with your comment or your question, go ahead and do it.
Yeah, hello.
Hi.
Can you please hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah.
All right, doing great. Hope you are doing great, please.
Yes, we are good.
Yeah.
All right, sure. So I would like to find out, when it comes to scholarship, people always connecting it to, academics and all that. We have people who are really good when it comes to, fashion and all that. People can, make shoes and all that. Don't you have specific scholarship for those kind of people? Does it always has to do with academics and all that? Thank you. I'll need a clarification on that, please.
Not if I can take a go on this question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so thank you for your question. I can put myself in this kind of situation. My academic records were not over the roof. They weren't the most
Shucks.
Yeah, I was just, okay. To give you a context, I had a second class upper, but it wasn't a strong one. And my GPA, my GRE that I wrote wasn't also very strong. Right. But these people are very understanding sometimes. That's why we always keep saying that you have to email the programs director, the admissions, whoever. Just email them, because for the first school that I got, the funding they first gave me was much lower. It probably was like 7,000 or 10,000, but I emailed them back and they made me aware that, okay, but your GRE was not this high, blah, blah, blah. And then I made my points why I could not get a very high score in the GRE, but I promised them that it was something that I was going to keep up when I started the school. So you don't have to only approach scholarships based on merits, academic merits, sorry. You can also approach it based on need. You can explain to them why you couldn't get the score, X, Y, and Z. They are human beings. They understand people perfectly. So sometimes it's just good to go back and forth with them and email them. Do your side work, even after you've applied generally. Don't just apply generic and leave it there. Also talk to them and let them know your constraints, your needs, and why you couldn't get this. So if you can still be considered for funding, that's a good way to go about it.
Thank you so much, Edna. I hope, Christopher, that answers your question. Afia, you wanted to add something to that?
Just a brief one to add to what Edna said. I know colleagues who are studying in fashion, and so there are programs there for those that are interested in the vocational technical side as well. And those areas have vast sources of funding that goes with them. So if your desire is to have a degree in those areas as well, definitely just look for a school that has master's, undergraduate, PhD programs. The person I know that I helped is actually doing a PhD in clothing and fashion. So there are options and it's fully funded.
Thank you very much, Afia. Isaac, you have your hand up. Just quickly to touch on what.
Oh yeah, so I actually got my funding because I was from Ghana. It wasn't because I had like good academics. So you just have to do your research, as Edna said. There are a lot of ways you can get your funding, not just by proving that, oh, you have a strong GPA, or that I also didn't have like the best student, like first class or something, but it was because, oh, I'm from Ghana. If you're from Ghana, Nigeria, like it's there already. So it's not always based on your academic records.
Thank you so much, Isaac. I just went through the chat messages, and someone said that, I think it was Bright. He said that if anyone has a background in soil science, crop science, general agriculture, conservation science, or any related course, that can write to him, and he gives his email address. So people should pay attention to the chat box that's going on. There are conversations that people are having there. And you can send him an email and he could help you if you happen to fall within any of those things. Amma says that she got admission in Masters of Science in Applied Statistics program in New Mexico State without funding. She would appreciate if any of you could advise her on funding opportunities. Anyone could advise Amma on funding opportunities for a school that she has gotten into, but she doesn't have funding now.
I think I can help a little bit. So some things you could also look at associations. So the program in terms of the program of study, maybe if it's a conservation science, look for Society of Conservation Biology or Society of Plant Pathology. Look for associations. In those associations links, usually there are fundings that are going, because they're a group of people with in that same field or that same area. They usually post up opportunities that are existing there. And there are some organizations too, so you should also cater your search to fundings going to plant this or that. Those are also there. And also check your school. Your school should have a resource list, funding resource list and centers, where they also have organizations and fellowships that offer fundings to their students. So it's like something that their students always get funding from those places. So they usually have a list, and you could look at that place also as your starting point, especially because you could look at that as your starting point because it's closely tied up to the school, and you already having admission could be a good way about it.
Thank you so much, Sichua. Someone asked that, is GRE really required for schools? And I want any of the panelists to touch on that requirement. Is it for every school, or can someone get away with that?
I would just briefly tell, not well in this year and in recent years from last year, what I have noticed most schools are doing now is they are taking off the GRE requirements. So there are certain schools out there that are no longer requiring GRE. And especially for this year, for applications those who will come in next year, a lot of schools, much more schools are also joining the trend of taking out GRE I don't know if it's because of the COVID, but this is something I noticed starting off somewhere last year, where some schools are no longer requiring GRE to be considered for admission.
Thank you so much. We have
Should I quickly
Edna?
touch on this here before we go?
Okay.
Yeah, so like just adding to what Rhoda said. So some schools initially, even before this whole COVID issue, weren't requiring GRE. It's not every school that requires GRE. So that's part of the research work you have to do. Sometimes you can just Google search schools that offer so and so and do not require GRE, and you'll be able to find that. But that being said, for schools that also require GRE, these days they are easing the whole requirements because of COVID and the whole idea of not being able to write GRE in a comfortable environment. Some of them are also waiving the requirements. So you have to do your research. The third thing is that you can also email the admissions board, the professor, someone, programs director, whoever. Sometimes you can email them. If you have a very strong academic record, you can email them and let them know that, hey, I'm coming to school and I would like to know if there are waivers for GRE. Because some of the schools will gladly waive your GRE for you if your academic background is very strong. That's what I can say. And to answer to that lady's question about funding, I would say that it's good. You had admission in this particular school, but don't limit yourself to the school.
Okay.
What you have to do is also sometimes research schools that already give some amount of funding to international students to begin with. Don't find schools that don't have funding and then try to find funding. Sometimes just do a general search of schools, and there are a lot of international schools that give funding. So do your search, find schools that give funding, and take it from there.
Thank you so much, Edna. Mame has her hand up. In fact, her hand has been up for quite some time. Mame, you can go ahead and ask your question or make your comment.
Hello, please. Good afternoon. And please, I just joined not long ago. When I joined, Efia Ejekum was talking. So please, I'm interested in the fashion part. So I don't know when I can get more information about. Thank you.
Sure. So I was referring to the fact that there are schools that offer undergraduate, graduate, and graduate level courses or programs in fashion and some of the other vocational areas that we know. It's not always econs and health and international, no. And I know some students that have applied. One, let me just put this one out there. It's North Carolina State in Greensboro. You can also look at North Carolina State in Chapel Hill. They have a strong fashion program, both at master's and PhD level. There are others. So what I would say generally is if you have an area of interest, put that in Google. Let's say a master's program in fashion in USA, universities with master's program in fashion in USA. It would give you a lot of options. I'm also going to share a link. It allows you to rank schools by area of study. It's not really for the purposes of you looking at the top school or not the top school. It's so that you can see the pool of schools that offer a particular program of interest and be able to explore from that pool. So when you go there and you search, let's say agriculture or fashion or public health or international development, it will bring you a pool of schools globally, or you can narrow it to regional or like Africa, Asia, or specific to a country, and it will give you a pool of schools that are known to have good programs in that area of study, and that could be a startup point for you. So I'll share that link as well.
All right, thank you so much, Efia. Thank you, Mami, for your question. Bridget has her hand up. Bridget, you can go ahead and ask your question or make your comment.
And good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to be here and to hear all the support for our academic community that you guys are providing. I was just gonna be quiet, but then there were so many comments that I wanted to combine in one comment, if I may. I have not heard anyone mention the United Nations, but if I do not know how I can emphasize that the United Nations is the way for intellectual foreigners to gain the best, the very best of the United States of America. You live in a bubble as a UN staffer for everything, for intellectual stimulation, for networking the world over, and for benefits, simple benefits. May I very quickly say that if you are both a resident of the US or citizen and born outside where you have residence maybe, you can find the best of both worlds in terms of funding. If you have a green card, there's funding available, and also if you were born elsewhere. So it's a double dip that you can make yourself make available to you. But let me head right back quickly to the UN and then I'll be done. If you go on First Avenue, I don't know where you guys are, but on First Avenue, you can go up to the second floor of the United Nations One building, and you can put in your application personally there. Further, you can Google online and you can see that there are junior professional programs. And if you are between a certain age, the UN will snap you up and they will sponsor you. You can get all kinds of internships, 6 months, 6 weeks, 2 years, what have you. So if you are not born in the US and you still have, the UN is the way. You can, when you are a UN staffer, you can purchase property, sell property, go to school, everything. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Bridget.
Let me just quickly come. Hi, Bridget. It's so nice to hear your voice.
I just wanted to stay all professional because I love this. You guys know how proud I am. All right. So forgive me, but as soon as I saw it, I was like, what? This is what we need to do. So forgive me. And to all your listeners, this is just an old aunt of Nat and Afia. They know me well. I'm in the middle of my gardening, so I would not put on my video. But I remembered half an hour later, and I was like, get me, find this thing quickly, let me get on. I am so glad that there's a community of intellectuals who are wanting to assist each other. It is not enough. I agree with the person who said you should have a WhatsApp group, because this should not be a one-off thing. We need support, and we need to be able to talk in privately in a safe environment, all our challenges. You have challenges of family, challenges of children, and now with COVID, the challenges are exponentially greater. Let me rush to affirm Edna's comment, Ms. Mensah, that COVID is now the interlocutor for everyone who doesn't want to do GRE. You can go to Harvard, you can go to anywhere. They are scrambling for students because the Harvard students that are traditional are saying, listen, if you guys are going to teach me online, you need to charge me half of your fees. So they're not going to make the money that they used to make. They are scrambling for folk to come. And last but not least, I get the sense that these are Africans that are meeting here. You have a story. The world is waiting for your story. There's no African without a story. And when you are writing that essay, I would like you to think very, very, because you will appeal to a person, right? You need to think what your story is and tell it the best way. If you need it edited for language, do so, but tell your story.
Let me quickly introduce Bridget. Bridget has worked with UN for over 20 years or so. So she's really talking from experience. She knows UN very well, and I'm glad we got her to actually come in with her perspective. Thank you, Bridget.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. We have one question, or I don't know if it's a statement, but Detlef says one very important issue when it comes to studying in the US is the acquisition of a visa. Many people have acquired full funding and also other very good funding, but they were denied visas. and all their hard works and their passion and desires to study in the US have gone down the drain. Can you properly touch on that issue? Because I believe it is very prominent. And before I allow any of our panelists to touch on that issue, I feel like Bridget said, this is not going to be a one-off thing, and we're going to, do a poll at the end of this webinar to see what the next session should be about, so we could go into details and some of these things that we've just barely scratched the surface. So Nana, you want to touch on that in terms of the visa denials and stuff?
Yes, I want to touch on it very briefly, like just so that in our section that we talk about visa proper, we would be able to go deep into that. But because we are talking about schools, something that is associated with that is the schools you are searching for, also take the pain of searching for whether the school is a service endorsed. There are schools so there are schools in the United States. There are so many schools here. However, some of them are not civic. Civic schools are schools, let me find the full meaning. But
please mute your audio if you're not talking. And I see Margarita and Kwesi Quab X.
So while Rhoda searches for the full meaning of service, I would like to quickly jump in. So pretty much she's just saying that you should find accredited schools in the US. Not every master's program or bachelor's degree program is accredited. And if the school is not accredited, it stands a high possibility that when you go to the embassy, they might refuse your visa. Now, that being said, there are also things you really have to prepare. Those people there, those counselors, they are actually psychologists, some of them. When you go, your demeanor, how you answer the questions will determine whether they will give you the visa or not. You could have admission, funding, everything, but just make sure you do your homework. We've written a whole topic on F1 visa questions. We will share the link with you soon, but make sure you prepare very well. One of the things they want to know is that you want to come to the USA to study, but you are going to go back to Ghana after your school. If you show any indication, any hints that you are here to school and stay and work, your visa, I'm sorry, will be denied. So make sure you do your homework very well. You learn how to answer the questions very well before you get to the embassy. Now, Rhoda, I don't know if you're ready.
Yeah, Rhoda, go ahead.
So CIVIS is the Students and Exchange Visa Information System. And it is tightly linked up to the US Department of State. So with that, it's a system that used to track. So every one of us here on a student is, for lack of a better language, being tracked by the United States to know where we are, whether we're even in school, whether we are taking classes. So if your school is not registered with CIVIS, they will not be able to do that. So your school must be CIVIS accredited. So even though you can gain admission and also gain funding to a certain school, the embassy will deny you if the school is not CIVIS accredited. And like Edna mentioned, some of the psychological things they also look out for when they are having the interview. So as much as you look for your programs in your school, also get the assurance that the school is a CIVIS accredited school. And you can easily do that by Google searching whether the school is a CIVIS accredited school or not. And there's a whole system. They have a link, a system that you can go in there to check if a certain school has CIVIS accreditation. And also the CIVIS accreditation does expire. So some schools could be CIVIS accredited for a certain year, but probably in the year that you got in, they are no longer CIVIS accredited. So that's also something that you have to go a further step in looking into.
Okay, thank you so much, Nana. I have Quab X, if you want to go ahead and make your comment or ask your question, and then we'll go to Margarita.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you guys so much for this opportunity. I believe this is very, very informative, and this session, we don't know if you can have it often for us. We are grateful. But I wanted to find out, let's say you are in a different country and you are taking a master's program, but you want to transfer. Is it easy? How easy is it? Is it possible? That's the word. Is it possible? Because you know that most of this master's program, they differ from school to school. Maybe you are taking MBA in one school and the semester courses are quite different. Is it advisable to transfer, or you wait? When you are done, you apply for a new school and get in and start all over again? How does it work out? Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I could take this. I
Okay.
would say, like I explained, the process of transitioning from one school to another. Just be in contact with the school, figure out what their requirements are, share with them what your syllabus is, what's on there. They would take a look at it, give you and tell you if this would match
possible.
Would match what they're doing in their school. I'm not sure how it will work for countries, but like I said, like one of the things we've said all over, just communicate. Like find somebody, if it's email, constant email with them, tell them this is where I'm at, this is my issue. How can I go around it? And there's always someone to help you.
Thank you so much, Valerie. I hope that answers your question. So, research the school and find someone in the school just to contact with. Margarita, if you can go ahead and ask your question.
Hello.
You're on mute.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. You guys are doing very well. I just joined, and then I want to know what GRE is, please.
Edna, go ahead.
Yeah. So GRE is just graduate record examination. It's an exam that is required by almost all non-business schools. So if you're not going to study business, they require it. It's pretty much testing you on math and English. They have like different sections, about 3 or 4. They test your core math skills, they test your English skills, your analytical skills, reasoning skills. They make you do multiple choice exams. They make you write a short essay where they give you a topic and you analyze certain things. So, and then they score you, I think it's, the highest score is like 340 or so, between 0 and 340. So they score you based on that. Most schools, graduate schools here require it on top of every other requirement, just so that they'll be able to measure, like compare you with other students from other countries and see where you stand. But these days it's something that they are not really requiring a lot anymore, because they realize that academic credentials is not just tied to GRE. You don't have to have GRE or score very high on GRE to do well in their program. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Edna. Isaac, you had your hand up, and then after you, I'll ask Akwesi Entry to also ask his question or comment.
Hello.
Oh, yeah, I mean, Akwesi can talk.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Akwesi.
Okay. Good afternoon once again.
Good afternoon.
Okay. I want to ask, supposing you have, let's say, a master's in Ghana, probably MSc, and you also have probably a professional accreditation, probably ACC or ICA. Does it add merit to add those credentials to your application when you are doing an application to a US institution?
Anyone wants to take that?
Sure, I will. Definitely, it does. So in the application process for each school, you are competing with vast audience coming from different parts of the world. So anything that helps show that you have built yourself and have acquired enough knowledge and skills in the area of study is critical. So one thing I would say is look at the department website. You will see the courses that they are going to be offering to you coming in to do that program at the master's level. You would also see courses that they have the required courses. They will prefer that you have taken them before applying to do the follow-on program. Or look at their undergraduate courses in that same area of study. And if you have any certificate or training certificate that shows that you've taken these programs before, it would be great to attach it to it, because it all comes together to show the skill set that you have. So definitely go for it. If you have some accreditation that courses that you've taken, even if you haven't completed it, but you've taken the courses and you can show proof that you've taken those courses, include it. If you can't show proof, write it in your personal statement that you are currently doing this and as such are studying for this exam or have taken part 1 of this exam and working towards part 2, and list 2 or 3 core courses like business accounting or finance management, or that relates strongly with the program you're doing, because it will show how prepared you are for the course. And if anything at all, probably puts you a bit more on the edge for acceptance and maybe even for funding, because for other professors that review might also say, oh, he has the skill set that I need for this program. It's also a reason why they would want to admit you. Remember, the admission process is not for you to show that you are qualified for the program only. It is also for you to show that you will be valuable to the department during the duration of your studies.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Efia.
Let me quickly add this. Like Efia said, it's not just to show you are qualified for this. The whole purpose of going to school or having a higher education or advancing is to add more new skills and also to build up yourself. So whilst you are showing those, you show anything that will show your interest, or you can link it up to show why it is relevant and why you need their program to supplement what you have. And those things also make you stand out, because, and ideally, you don't study a business in maybe KNUST and then you go to University of Ghana to also study business. There should be some slight change, something that is a build-up. You are trying to grow yourself. So there should be a show, and there's a way to show that. You have to find a way to show that you are trying to build up, and then you can get that build up from their school and their program in particular.
Thank you so much, Nana. It's 12:26 now, which is that gives us about 4 minutes to close. But Isaac, go ahead, make your comment. Then after Isaac, we'll have Valerie, and then after Valerie, Margarita can go ahead and also make her comment or ask a question.
Oh, okay. So I wanted to talk, I mean, when the guy asked about the visa thing, one thing that you can do is to try and visit the embassy. I mean, I know now it's closed, but they have education session, I think it was on Wednesdays in the morning or something. Yeah, so what it did to me was, before the interview, I felt I've been there, like the whole, you know how when you're going for the interview, like the feeling, like, because I went there over and over and over, and especially, I mean, maybe some of you have your I-20 already. You go there, just show your I-20 to the woman, they will start asking you questions, and just pay attention. I was asked some of these questions when I went for my interview. So you can visit there a couple of times, and it's going to help you. It was really helpful. It's more like an interview in disguise, based on the questions they will ask you and all that. So that was something that I wanted to actually also talk about.
Thank you so much, Isaac. Go ahead, Valerie.
I was just going to add to what they said to Akwesi's question, that another thing that does for you, like letting them aware that you have prior degrees or something, is it allows them to waive things like your GRE, because in recent times I've had a friend who was applying from a master's program to another master's, and the fact that they had that previous master's, it was basis for them to waive his GRE requirements. So yeah, I think it's advisable you let them know that, okay, this is where I'm at. Don't feel like I need to hold back on anything. Just let them know this is who I am. And the thing about schools here is, they are always, whatever the situation is, there's always somebody there who is more than willing to help you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Valerie. Margarita, go ahead and then ask your question or comment. You're on mute now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, for someone like me who studied, who went to the training college, and I'm studying English language, but I can teach with it. For someone like me, what are some of the available courses that you think would help me with my profession?
Thank you. Anyone wants to tackle that?
Yeah, one thing I could just add a little bit. I won't be able to help you with what could help to give you advice on what will be good for your field of study. But what I could touch on is if it is a training college, whatever school you are going to, the US also looks at having a training from a program that is a 4-year program or a minimum 3-year program. So you need to contact the school to know if your the number of years or the number of credits you've already accumulated from your previous studies is enough to advance. So that's just the aspect I wanted to tackle on in terms of that. But with your English background, if that's your interest area, you should also speak with people who, your professors in your school could also be very good way to learn what do people do with English. What other avenues do people advance in it to help you know the kind of route you can take to growing yourself professionally?
Thank you so much. We are right on time. It's 12:30 now Eastern time. And I would like to, before I go, if you would like to leave at this point, you can leave. But we're gonna add about 10 more minutes to the session. I just wanna engage some of our participants that might have had experiences in coming here for school, and any thoughts on this whole process, and if they have any comment quickly, about 2 people, and then I'll get some last words from our panelists, and then we can end. I also see that people are sharing their email addresses. We're gonna compile all that, reach out to people, and then discuss the next session. So anyone on the call that wants to share an experience or speak to the topic in discussion right now. If we do not have anyone, I will just ask our panelists to give their last.
I think Osei had his hand up, and he's had his hand up for a while. So.
Nat.
Yes.
Can someone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Unfortunately, I couldn't use my video.
I wanted to address Margarita's.
Hold on. We have Sam. Sam is talking. P. Sam, you can talk, and then after you, the next person can also talk.
Yeah, my full name is Samuel Adabla, alumni from University of Ghana. I completed my master's here in Bowling Green State University, currently pursuing my PhD at University of Cincinnati in public health. I just want to share quickly with regards to what the team has shared. They have said a lot. I just want to share with everyone present who is willing to continue that school application takes a lot of patience. It is not a cookie cutter. It is not something that you do a snap of a finger. It takes determination. It takes resilience to do that. Sometimes it might take a year, it might take 2 years, it might take 3 years. It is very easy to get admission. Getting scholarship is the difference. So like they have said, if you have a 3.0, you automatically qualify for admission. But the scholarship part is what distinguishes you from others. And so what I would say is that just keep on trying, like everyone has said, keep researching, keep in contact with people that you know. Because of the time difference, sometimes we might not be responsive to your text messages. However, like Osei shared, there is Education USA that is located in the embassy in Ghana. I would just encourage you, once this pandemic is over, to try and make a time, go there. They would answer all the questions about the requirements, what you need to do, how you go about selecting the schools, the programs, and all that. They will really much assist you. So I would just encourage everyone who is willing to, not only here in the US, in Europe, in Australia, wherever it is patience, So that is what I just want to share, that school application is patience.
Thank you so much, Sam. We have Detlef. If you can go ahead, make your comment, and then after Detlef, we'll take Evelyn, and then after Evelyn, I'll go to the panelists again.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. First of all, I just want to thank you guys for the good work you're doing. I think it's very, very important that you guys have come together to have this conversation and also to educate a lot of us and all that. But I still want to touch on the visa issues because that is the most important thing that I think is a problem nowadays at the U.S. Embassy in Ghana. Because it's not really about you going for the U.S. session and all that. I want to use myself as an example. I had a scholarship in the University of Miami University, to be precise, like 2015 thereabout, and it was a full scholarship with assistantship worth about $38,000, and I was going to get like $1,005 every month in addition to other monies as well. And you know how happy and how difficult it is to get scholarship, and you get a scholarship with the intention that you're going to study and your life is going to change, and at the end of the day, you go to the embassy and within 1 minute, somebody will determine your future or whatever you have planned for you. And so I think what you guys, maybe I might plead you want to do is that as time goes on, probably you can have somebody at the US embassy to find out more about the reason why they refuse a lot of students. But I don't think it's just about the questions, because for me, he asked me some questions that was not necessary. You understand? Oh, is it? Yeah, like some questions that were not necessary to the program I was going to do or whatever. Just about some few questions, and later on, he was just asking me a whole lot of questions, trying to bombard me with questions and all that. So I realized that it was just intentional. And it was not only me, a lot of people also had come there with the same I-20 full scholarship at other schools, but they were all denied, you understand? So I think it's a major problem because you go through all these processes of application fee, doing this personal statement, and get everything. You go one day within some few minutes and you are denied. It's a really a bad thing, you understand? So please, you guys can do something about it. Let us know what really they want. If you don't get that specific thing, then you don't even go to the embassy at all. You understand? Right, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Can I speak to that briefly?
Yes, go ahead.
Definitely, we will try to get their insight, but I wanted to highlight that from the embassy's perspective, and as people are applying, we have our own perceptions of what we think they are going to ask. And I will tell you the truth, it's not always what it is. They are free to ask you any and about every question. And it doesn't have to be related to the purpose for which you are there in any way, shape, or form. When you form your mind thinking you are going to school, and when you get there, they are going to start asking you school questions and academic records, and they don't, you even start to get disoriented. Trust me, they are not only interested in your answers, they are looking at your demeanor, your consistency. So bear all those things in mind, just be prepared. I would use myself as an example. When I went for my second visa issue, we actually didn't talk about the purpose for which I was there. She was interested in why I was in the place I was, because I was in a different country at that time applying, and the fact that she had worked in Ghana before moving to this other country to work again with the embassy. So she was asking me, so you live in Ghana, where were you living? What were you doing? And I also engaged her. I said, what's your favorite Ghanaian food? She said, fufu. I said, oh, great. Oh, I also don't like it too much. I like kenke. So were you in Accra? Where did you? That was the visa interview. Because before you get there, they would have done all their checks. When she asked you the first question and you are confident on point, the second, she's already decided. Now, when you let the first question throw you off because your expectations didn't match, then she's gonna probe some more because it starts to look suspicious. So people should not narrow their thinking that the visa interview is a professional, going to be strictly based on academic things. No, it's any and everything. She can actually ask you, what did you eat this morning before coming? Be ready and be engaged. See it as a dialogue. Wherever she takes it, let it go. It was at the end that she asked me, what did you learn in your school? And this visa was not even about school, it was about work. And I had to put my thoughts together to say, oh, that was where I had my first chance to attend international conferences, and it was engaging. I learned a lot. I met other professors. That was the only, I would say, semi-related question. So please don't assume it's gonna go one way. It's every and anything she wants to.
And I quickly want to add that I, like the others mentioned, going to the embassy for their the study abroad program. I went there, and then I went for the session on visa. And I'll share some things that I heard on that day. Like Ifya has touched on, they can ask any and every question. They would already have your application because you would have already sent in your application online, right? So they've done their backgrounds on you. Certain times, there are so many things that could go wrong. There may be someone else having your name that is already in the embassy. And there are so many things that could go wrong. And something that I learned during that conference seminar with them was certain times they are also trying to look for intent, and intent whether you really want to study or you just want to be in the United States. They don't want anyone to waste your time and also waste their time to send you to study in the United States for something you're not interested in. And they also don't want to waste their time interviewing you because there are hundreds of people coming in that day. So they are going to look for intent. And somebody shared his example, and then the person was like, and even all of us who were in that room that day were like, we will deny you. And they're like, we are just human beings like you. So the guy shared a story of being in the US to study for his undergraduate study. Then he did his OPT, which is after school study and all that, went back to Ghana and then got a B visa. So the visa to come to school to study is the F1 visa. Went back to Ghana, got a B visa and came to the US. And the B visa, they gave him 5 years. He stayed in the US for like 8 months or is in 1 year on the B visa. And during that time, he applied to go for a PhD. He got to the school all right, he got admission, and I think he had to go back. So now he has to go back again and get an F1 visa because you can be, for the purpose of why you are coming to the US, you have to be on that visa. He was here for a B visa, which is a visitor's visa. So he has to go back and get a school visa to be able to come back to the US. And that is when he was denied. He was shocked. And the man said, of course, you go to school in the United States for 4 years, you stayed a little bit, we understand you make friends, family and connections over there, and then you come back home. So when you came back home asking for a B visa to go back visit, it's natural, you've made contact, you've made friends. We would give it to you because we are all human beings. You've spent 4 years as a place, you've built connections over there, they gave it to you. And it's supposed to be a visitor's visa, and you stayed on the visa for a whole year.
Yeah.
Who travels for a whole year for holidays? That was his question. And then we're all like, yeah, I mean, you are coming for a visit and then you are staying for a whole year. You're overstaying your visa. Then you should know what your visa also requires so that you are not in violation for it. So to go the next time, that's why he was denied, even though he had genuinely had a school, he had funding and all that. So it's a case by case, but like they said, you should be open-minded about what you are going to meet, and don't think there's a particular question they will ask you. It's all going to be related to the school. For me, it was related to my previous travel, why I did my previous travel.
Right. Thank you, Nana. So we will touch on the nuances of trying to get a visa and going to the embassy in another session. Phyllis had her hand up. If she's still on there, you can go ahead and make your quick comment. And then Sako Die Nananya Koa also, if you are there, you can go ahead and make your quick comment.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Sure. Thank you very much. So basically, I was just gonna add a little bit to what the guy shared, but then Rhoda kind of captured. It's like she was reading my mind, but she kind of captured what I wanted to share.
Okay.
That aside, I just want to commend you guys. What you're doing is amazing, and I just hope you keep it up.
Thank you so much, Phyllis.
Sure, yeah, it's really amazing. Like, I mean, I joined in pretty late, but then the conversations that you've been having has been very helpful. And then I'll just encourage, some of the students, most of the students from Ghana who are trying to, kind of study abroad. I wish I had these tips when I was applying to school. I did not. I had to find it the hard way.
Right.
But if you have a platform like this, I would say that, everything that everybody's saying, every everything that people have shared so far, that is what it is, you know. So just take, like, that is not what it is. Like, you can either take the tips now and apply it, or you can do your own thing and then find out the hard way. So I just say, you know, just take caution and, you know, take good notes and then just try to apply, because it's one thing to go through all these seminars and then not apply, right? You're not going to get the results you're looking for. So the most important thing is we are going to talk, we are going to share experiences, but it's up to you to actually make good use of it. So that's all I have to share. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Sakodje, go ahead and make your comment.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Please, I wanted to find out that if you already have an admission in the United States and you're over here, and then you are finding difficulty in paying for your tuition, is there a way you could apply for a scholarship to help you pay your fees? And then initially I studied fashion design, and I'm thinking of changing my course because I'm actually doing business. So is it possible to change from business to fashion and then get a scholarship to pay my tuition?
Thank you so much, Nana. Ifya or Edna, you want to touch on this real quickly? I think that the consensus is that we're going to have this session again. And thank you all to those that are sharing their, you know, their email addresses. We're going to reach out back to you guys. I'm going to launch a poll right now to solicit your thoughts on what our next session should be about. And so go ahead and, you know, reply to that poll. Go ahead, Edna or Ifya, if you want to talk to Sakodi about her question.
Ifya, go ahead.
Sure, Edna. So I would say yes, if you're already in the US and you're looking for ways to be able to get funding for your program, definitely there are options. I think it's going to be one of the sessions we'll talk about when we get to being in the US and what options are there. There are always options to look at at your program area and institutions that work in that area who will be interested in finding interns to work with. Discuss it with your department chair, if you the International Students Office, if you qualify to do such internship, it will be a great way to get some sort of funds to support your school. The other way is actually through the school. You can work with your department to now be able to get opportunity to be a teaching assistant or a research assistant. Also, contact other departments. I have seen people who were doing economics or finance and will be able to be a teaching assistant in an undergrad course in maths to support the math students on the side, like a teaching support. So look for those opportunities in the school, not only within your department, within other departments. Also, talk to your dean, see what opportunities exist for students or international students within your department or college, and how you can capitalize on those, what is required for you to get in. Just because you didn't get it before coming in does not mean you will still not get it. So I would say be a bit more aggressive. There are a lot of options to go about it. And definitely, yes, you can switch programs. But what is critical is to make sure that for the program you want to now do, the minimum required courses, you have covered those in your program that you are currently doing or in some of the studies you have already undertaken to show that you qualify for it. But I have seen the transition. I have seen someone who did agribusiness with me who is now doing fashion as a PhD program. But the key thing is to make sure that the core required courses, prerequisite courses to be able to apply for that program, you have taken them, or you have enough credit hours that is required to be able to take that program, and you should be able to transition into any and every program.
Thank you so much. I see the comments that are going on here. Auntie B said we should try and consider inviting someone from the American Embassy when we discuss the visa acquisitions. That's something that we will look into. So we're going to end here, but before we end, I would like to say this thing is a process. To each their own, but everyone would have to do their own due diligence. And we are here to offer ourselves as resources to anyone that would reach out. And as we end, I'd like to ask Alfred to give, something short to close out. that opportunity will be given to all the panelists. Just 30 seconds, something quick.
All right, thank you. So it's been great having you all. And I want to encourage all those who are trying to get a school that you shouldn't give up. It's a hectic process, but if you keep trying, you're going to get it. And it's really going to be worth it in terms of the exposure you're going to get when you come here, the people you're going to meet, the quality of people, the quality of relationships and interactions you're going to have here. And if you get funding also, it's also good money. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you, Alfred. Edna.
Yes, so thank you guys for coming on the webinar. I personally enjoyed myself and also learned a lot from other participants. So with that being said, all I can say is that if you are ready to apply to the schools, like we've already shared, do your work, do your homework. Do your homework. And on top of that, as part of the things you can do, you can also look for, especially if you are applying to schools that you know people from, make sure you contact them, make sure they give you all the tips to be able to navigate, especially funding and any other thing they can share with you. Do all of that and everything will go smoothly. Lastly, don't give up. Don't give up. For me, for example, I could tell you that my parent didn't pay a penny for my school.
Wow.
And I kept telling them over and over again that I wanted to get my master's degree, but it was almost all like, why don't you work and save and make some money and go to school? But my persistence was able to get me into the program. I, by God's grace, was able to get full funding for my school in the end by just being persistent. So don't give up on your dreams. If you want to go to school, definitely do so and be persistent. That will take you to where you want to go. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Edna. But as you were talking about persistence, I was wondering, did any of you, and this is a yes or no question so that I don't open a can of worms, did any of you ever get denied on the first try to get into America for school? Yes or no?
Yes, I did.
Okay, good. Anyone else?
No.
No, okay.
So I
Yes,
got
I
denied
did.
for
I also got
two different
refused.
visas.
Huh?
I got denied for 2 different visas, which wasn't F1. It was
Okay.
J1, which is like exchange program, and
Right.
it was a visitor's visa. So my third one was F1.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that I just asked that just to put some context and just to encourage people that, you know, it's not a one-touch thing. Sometimes things happen, but don't give up. We're gonna have a different session on that. Nana, you want to give us your last thoughts on the session before we go?
Yeah, like a few others have mentioned, it's a long process. You should know when you want to go into school, and then you should start very early because it's like a 1-year cycle to even start the school. So don't think that, oh, I want to go to school in September, then it'll be there. Yeah, you need to plan ahead. You need to also be strategic, very much focused on what you want to do. And being strategic will help you narrow things down and be able to plan well towards achieving your goal.
Thank you so much. Yao Apiedu has commented in the chat box that he's willing to also help people review their essays and resumes. Thank you so much. And I think to what Bridget had commented earlier, we do need to create some kind of forum platform beyond this so we can continue this conversation. Isaac, what are some of your last thoughts before we go?
Oh, okay. So what I would say is you have to be persistent, you have to be aggressive, so, and don't give up. I mean, I feel I'm just repeating the words that have been said already.
Right.
If you no does not mean no. I have experience where I had extra funding that I was telling them they should give it to me. They said no. I had to go to the graduate student office over and over and over and over. So just keep on. If they deny you a visa at school, don't give up. Just try again over and over and over. And your hard work is really going to be fruitful at the end of the day. So just push yourself and do your best. And I believe that God is going to reward each and every one. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Isaac. Valerie, what do you have to say before we go?
Pretty much echoing everything everyone has said. You know what your priorities are. What you feel is your priorities is yours. No one can match that. Nobody understands that. So you need to know what you want for yourself and you work hard at it. Like, know that this is my end goal. Like, it's a process that's going to be ups, downs, but then just realize that, okay, this is what I want at the end of the day. So you work hard at it and it's doable. And you could be
Hey, thank you so much. And I would like to reiterate that even though the story sounds similar or familiar, each person has their own, little challenges that they had to go through and tweak it. And I know as a group, we talk amongst ourselves. There's still challenges that we're going through and we're trying to figure out. And so, I mean, it's just a process. Afia, if you can end us with your thoughts on this and also close us out with a prayer, and then we can end the conversation. The poll is still up. You can still go ahead and vote. Go ahead, Afia.
Thank you, Nat. I would say that please, as you start to think about getting education in the US and higher education, remember that there are critical timelines. Understand the admission cycle and note the timelines. When is the deadline for application? When is the deadline if you need funding? Those are very critical, and let those things guide you on your preparation process. It can be a long process for some people, and it's fine. And if it's shorter for you, great. Overall, it is not a one-size-fits-all module at all. Everybody's experience is so different, and it's the same thing, but very different. So don't be too concerned about what someone experienced. Don't be too pulled away or held back by someone's story. Know that it's very individual oriented. Learn from people's experiences to better yours, and just keep going. It will happen for you with determination. So on that note, I would probably say we have a quick word of prayer to end the whole session. And thank you so much for staying on. We still have 75 people. The audience have been great, and we truly do appreciate your support and staying on till now. Lord, pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for such an engaging session, for the wisdom and the insight to be useful, to provide useful information to our audience, and for us to learn great value as well. We ask that as we depart, may you be with each one of us and provide and guide us and keep us safe. May you grant us more wisdom to be able to think through and be more useful to our friends, colleagues, mothers, sisters who might need our support one way or the other. These and many other blessings have we asked in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us.